Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Tuesday, the third day of September, year of our Lord 2019, and welcome to the John Moore Show. The prepper tip of the day, well, we'll do that after the Pledge of Allegiance, which I think is becoming more important every day. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Prepper tip of the day, if you have friends and family in the hurricane-affected areas, please reach out to them while the phones still work. Help them any way they need help. There will be people alive and breathing right now who will be dead in a day or two or three. We know that. It's coming, and the time to deal with that is right now. Okay, we're hoping that Steve Ben Noon will call in, and if he does, we will certainly have him on board here. This is Steve's hour. I talk to a lot of people. As you know, I'm pretty active in the community. I talk to people on the telephone, have email exchanges, and so forth. And this talk about a coming civil war does have basis in reality. There are men and women who have very great veracity, shall we say, that are giving us these warnings. Simply because there's warning doesn't mean it will happen. President Trump's aware of these things as well, and I know he's doing what he can to mitigate and have that not happen. We can't count on that being absolute, however. So we got 13 months. This is September, 13 months before the election, November 2020. I started out this message, we had 15 months. Now we've got 13 months. So word to the wise, this time will fly by. I was reading that General Mike Flynn's new defense team, which includes the head of the defense team is a woman I met in Dallas a few months back, about a year ago or so. Very bright former federal prosecutor herself. Apparently, there's exculpatory evidence that's been withheld. Exculpatory evidence that was not presented to the court. Exculpatory evidence in the form of FBI documents that indicate that General Flynn was not being deceptive, was not lying to the FBI agents who themselves were deceptive. And of course, this is wrong. Lawyers lose their bar license and can be prosecuted over withholding exculpatory evidence. It's a very, very serious thing. And it looks like we may not have Steve with us this morning. Steve is a busy guy and he has lots of projects. I'll be talking to Steve privately and catch up with him, see if we can get him back next week. Also, when I was in Dallas, I met General Flynn's brother. We had a formal fundraising dinner. The men wore tuxes if they had them, suits if they didn't. Like I didn't have a tux, I wore my suit. The women all dressed up as if they were going to a ball, wearing their gowns. It was a very, very nice affair, quite frankly. I contributed to the fundraiser to help pay for General Flynn's defense. You may ask yourself, why did General Flynn plead guilty? Well, when you got the full resources of the United States government against you, and you're just a guy with whatever financial resources you've got, it doesn't take a whole lot of time to expend all your personal finances and basically bankrupt yourself. And that's where General Flynn found himself. He found himself facing bankruptcy and going to court against the federal government when you're being prosecuted. I believe it's a 98% victory rate on the side of the government when they go to court. They do stack the deck. They do stack the deck. The woman on his team, his legal team, Sidney Powell is her name. I did spend about half an hour discussing different things with Ms. Powell. Very bright woman, very articulate, all the things that you would expect from a former federal prosecutor. Of course, I've spent my adult life interacting almost on a daily basis with the lawyers since 1970. Well, actually, since when I started paralegal training, that would have been 1971, not quite half a century. And I've met a lot of very bright men and women in the legal profession, and some that I wondered how they got through law school. So it's both ends of the spectrum, like you might expect. But when General Flynn brought her on board, he did the right thing. This is a woman who has been there and done that and got the T-shirt, as they say. She knows, because she was a federal prosecutor. She knows how things should work. She knows how things do work. And they aren't necessarily the same. What was done to General Flynn was unethical, very likely illegal. I don't know. But it was at least unethical, withholding what's called exculpatory evidence from the court. Now, the court can't when General Flynn pled guilty, the court has to make a decision based on the evidence in front of the judge. They can't do that. They can't make a good judgment with some of the evidence withheld. They can't do that. I should mention the call number is 800-313-9443. Okay. Trying to do 2 or 3 different things at once here. I know what I'd like to see. I doubt that it would happen. The leadership in the Trump administration has been very volatile, to say the least. But what I'd like to see is this sentence. What needs to happen, and Sidney Powell, the attorney representing General Flynn, basically has asked for the case to be dismissed. That's what needs to happen. That's what needs to happen. We now know that men involved in the Department of Justice prosecuting General Flynn were also knee-deep in Spygate, as it's come to be called, Spygate. We know that for a fact. It's not conjecture, it's fact. So the case needs to be dismissed. I would like to see President Trump bring General Flynn back into the administration. Now, he was a national security advisor. Now, that's a very high office within the administration. Someone who has basically daily access to the president at any time they need access to the president. Very high. There's not many men or women who have that kind of access to the president of the United States. I don't recall the person who's currently filling that role, but I hope they're doing a good job. But General Flynn could easily become the deputy national security advisor. That needs to happen. General Mike Flynn is an honorable man who is doing his job. These 2 FBI agents approached him, and what General Flynn was characterized as General Flynn as a friendly visit from a friendly agency, the FBI, to be briefed on what was going on with national security matters. General Flynn honestly and naively thought that's all it was. Inviting these 2 FBI agents into the White House to give them a tour of what he was doing, to answer questions they had, not knowing it was a complete setup. That was an entrapment. Not knowing that these agents had with them the dates and times he had contacted Russian officials, which was his job, by the way. That's what he was supposed to do. That's what he was paid to do. That was part of his mission statement, was to talk to Russian officials, not knowing they had complete details of when those conversations took place, And General Flynn was talking about conversations with these Russian officials or a Russian official. And guess what? He forgot some of the times that he had talked to the Russian official. That's all he did. Now, human memories are something that are not, or can be faulty. Of course they can be faulty. When you're working 10, 12 hours a day, talking to literally dozens and dozens of people every day of the week, do you think you might just forget some of those conversations that took place? Of course you would. That's a given. Of course you would. And that's what General Flynn did. He innocently forgot to mention some of the conversations that took place. And as a consequence, he found himself charged with the crime of lying to the FBI. That was the crime he was charged with, lying to the FBI. What he was really guilty of, and it's not being guilty, but he really forgot some of the conversations. That's all he did. And for that, he was charged with federal crimes that would lead to federal imprisonment. And he had to hire lawyers, basically spend all his family's resources to defend himself against these charges. What a travesty. That's not the way this is supposed to work. Not at all. That's not the way this is supposed to work. But that's what happened to this man. I'm sure he was shocked and surprised and disappointed, humiliated. His family was humiliated. I'm sure there were threats made against him, because that's typically what happens these days. So this will hopefully be resolved soon. This has been going on. This all started, well, let's begin with the beginning. General Flynn wrote a book. I got a copy of the book, an autographed copy of the book. And this was written, the book was written, General Flynn wrote this book during the Obama administration, and basically said, you can't hope to fight an enemy if you're not even allowed to name your enemy. Of course, the enemy, of course, being Islam. I'm not going to say radical Islam, because Islam is just Islam. Now, that's not from John Moore. That's from the Muslim president of Turkey, Erdogan. President, prime minister, whatever his title is. I know what he wants to be. He wants to be the head of the caliphate. So, we need to pray for General Flynn. We really need to. This man has had his honor dragged through the mud. He's been humiliated in front of the whole world. He needs to have his honor restored, and I have no doubt whatsoever that at the end of this, President Trump will do the right thing and bring General Flynn back into the fold somehow, some way. I don't know what's going to happen, but all this happened on President Trump's watch. President Trump is certainly aware of this. I'm sure he's briefed probably once a week, if not daily, on what's going on there. And we shall see, won't we? We shall see. Call number is 800-313-9443. We'll take your questions and comments if you have any. Our system is not supposed to do what it did to General Flynn. It simply isn't. Our system is not supposed to do what happened to what happened to General Flynn. So I hope this will be resolved. I hope it will be resolved in a manner that is appropriate. The appropriate thing being General Flynn being exonerated. He needs to be completely exonerated because this man did nothing wrong. He did absolutely nothing wrong. There were men and women who did things wrong, and that was within the Department of Justice. That's where the wrongdoing took place, within the Department of Justice, within the FBI. It's rather ironic. I've known a number of FBI agents over the years. I've known them to be men of honor, men of distinction, men who wanted to do the right thing for the right reasons, men who joined the FBI for the right reasons. I also know, and I haven't met, well, there was one FBI agent that I met who became my political enemy forever. But it's a shame that men and women can be transformed from being patriotic men and women in the FBI to working for the dark side. We've seen outrageous examples of this now for decades. It's unfortunate what happened to Randy Weaver. I've only had one conversation with Randy Weaver. He's another Vietnam vet.
Public Broadcasting Network depends on listener support of our advertisers and of our sponsors. We'd like to especially thank all of you who have taken advantage of our fundraiser with FrontSite Bonus. Those who are now FrontSite members, please train as soon as possible for your sake and for that of our nation. And please consider sharing your training and what you've learned when you arrive home. Republic Broadcasting Network has to stop promoting this fundraiser on air and on the website in just a few days. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, president of FrontSite, made a gracious exception to his no media rule for us at Republic Broadcasting Network. Thank you, Dr. Piazza. And once you've been to FrontSite, feel free to call your favorite host and share your experience on the air. We can continue this fundraiser without media help, but it'll be totally up to the listeners to spread the information. Please call Dan Sutterfield in Missouri at 573-465-2356, 573-465-2356. That's 573-465-2356.
As a listener of RBN, you're surely concerned about being informed and being ready for whatever may come. Please consider the following questionnaire as a soul-jarring wake-up call. If you answer no to more than 2 of these following questions, you probably aren't going to make it through any major disruption in our country. The questions were compiled by people that have been there. Are you really ready? Do you own your own firearm for the primary defense and protection of you and your loved ones? Have you ever been professionally trained to stand against life-threatening behavior? Have you ever practiced enough to fire 500 rounds during a 2 to 4 day time frame, day and night? Can you load, unload, fire, and clear a jam in total darkness? Have all the adults in your household been professionally trained? Are you, life and death, comfortable with your abilities with pistol, revolver, shotgun, and rifle? Are you aware that everything that you do to prepare for an emergency is a waste of time, money, and energy? If you haven't honed your abilities to their highest level to protect and keep what you have? Do you have the repair parts that will most likely be needed for each of your firearm, and do you have the ability to install those parts? Could you completely clean every firearm you own? Are you aware that your body won't go where your mind hasn't been? In other words, without proper training, followed by regular practice, you probably will not win a gunfight. Well, how did you measure up? Take the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to start correcting your deficiencies by receiving your Commander Lifetime Membership with FrontSite Firearms Training Facility. A one-time donation to RBN for $500 will give you a Commander Lifetime Membership at FrontSite as a tremendously huge thank you bonus. See details on RBN's webpage to make it happen. The clock is ticking. You had better be ready before it happens.
are back, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. J.R. Moore here on Tuesday, the third day of September. Yes, it is September. We're going on a cruise. Hurricane season will be long gone. Everything will be cleaned up. Florida will be looking as pristine as it normally does because all the contractors will converge on there and get everything cleaned up. We're leaving Port Canaveral, which right now is closed because of the hurricane, on Saturday, the 9th day of February, and returning a week later on the 16th. Valentine's Day will be right in the middle of the cruise. It can be a romantic cruise if you choose it to be. It will be informative. It will be fun. You'll spend time visiting with myself and Leon Green and possibly some others. We can't say definitely that Sam Andrews will be there yet, but we hope he can make it. We'll find out, in a few weeks, if Sam and his lovely wife can be there with us. It'll be a lot of fun. I'll be there, of course. This is my deal, and of course I'll be there. If you don't have internet connection and you would like a nice full-color brochure mailed to you, just give our cruise director, Betsy Murphy, a call, and she will mail you a very nice full-color brochure giving all the details. Betsy's telephone number, I'll give it twice slowly, 636-530-9502. I say again, 636-530-9502. Before the break, I was talking about Randy Weaver. I've only had one conversation with Randy. Never met him personally. It was a telephone conversation. Randy was living up there in a small community called Ruby Ridge, Idaho, with his lovely wife, I believe 3 children, and just living his life and wanted to be left alone, that's all. Do a little gunsmithing on the side. I had run for sheriff once up there, unsuccessfully. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms asked him to infiltrate a nearby group that they wanted to be checked out, a group characterized as white nationalists, whatever that is. I'm not sure what that is. And Randy listened to them, and he said, no, I'm not going to do that. I decline that. Well, that wasn't acceptable to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. It was not acceptable at all. So they set up a sting operation. A sting operation gets somebody to commit a crime when they don't know they're committing a crime. So here's what happened. A man approached Randy as a gunsmithing customer, asking Randy to shorten the barrel on a shotgun to 18.5 inches. Now, this is where it gets interesting. In this country, until recently, because the manufacturers learned something they hadn't figured out for 80 years, but a shotgun barrel less than 18 inches long required a federal transfer tax of $200 and federal paperwork for this shotgun to have the barrel shorter than 18 inches. And of course, Randy knew that, being a gunsmith. Of course he did. And the customer asked him to perform this service, and Randy agreed to do so. So Randy shortened the barrel. It's called cut and crown. You cut the barrel and you crown it so it has a nice rounded edge on it that is smooth. Replaced the front sight back where it should be, just behind the muzzle. And he returned it to the customer and was paid for his service. What Randy did not know, because this was kept from him, and it didn't occur to him to check. The stock had already, before he got his hands on it, the stock had been shortened to several inches, because there's a second part of that law that requires the overall length of the shotgun to be 26 inches. So the stock was cut a fraction of an inch less than the required 26-inch overall length, which meant when Randy shortened the barrel to 18.5 inches, which I don't know if it was 18.5, could have been 18.25, could have been 18, doesn't matter. When Randy shortened the barrel, that made the procedure he did illegal because no federal paperwork and transfer tax was involved. none of this Randy knew, of course, because this was a sting operation. A sting operation whose goal was to be able to charge Randy with a crime, or I should say threaten to charge Randy with a crime if he didn't agree to once again infiltrate the group that the ATF wanted him to infiltrate. So Randy refused, and so he's charged with a crime, and they mailed him a letter with a new court date, which Randy didn't get. So because he didn't get this letter, for whatever reason, doesn't matter, an arrest warrant was issued. But they didn't just go up, drive up there in a Crown Vic and knock on the door and say, Mr. Weaver, we need to take you into custody. No, they didn't do that. No, here's what they did. They sent U.S. Marshals in camouflage out in the woods outside Randy's home. And we got a Bob in the hour button.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the energy cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an energy cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here on Tuesday. It is Tuesday, the 3rd day of September, and it keeps reminding myself it's September already. How about that? My website is thelibertyman.com. It is thelibertyman.com. Now smartphone compatible. People like that. It's just a necessary evil these days. And we got something new at my website as of yesterday, a dramatic price reduction in the 21.5 acres for sale. It's now listed at $90,000. This property has a very nice spring on it. People want property with live water on it with a proprietary spring. That means you'll have all the water you would ever need for your personal consumption. How about that? I don't believe it's big enough for commercial use, but it certainly is a big benefit to have a spring on your property. Also, on my website, of course, you'll find energy cleaners for sale. My friend who went to Washington, D.C. with me, Ben Murphy, each of us had an energy cleaner pad on our seats of the vehicle as we went up and back. We had pads on our beds at night when we slept. Ben was not even aware the energy cleaner even existed before this trip. And he felt so energized when he got back and so pumped up. He said, John, can I borrow this until I can buy one? I said, well, sure. And so he borrowed mine, and he went ahead and bought one from me, I believe it was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. He may come on and do some testimonials for us. Ben's a great guy. We've known each other for about 30 years or so, and he's just all charged up and pumped up about the energy cleaner, a marvelous healing device. That's what it is. Yesterday, I was really active around the ranch here. I probably overdid it, and I really did. I was just doing too much. My friend Ron was here, and Ron was busy cutting grass, and I was busy working on my new office. And I went to bed last night. I was just really tired. I went to bed early. I woke up this morning refreshed, energized, pain-free, did my workout. My workout includes some nice stretching exercises. Stretching is very important. 200 crunches and 100 push-ups, and got my day going. And the energy cleaner helps with all that. It really does. $285 shipping included, American zip codes. Mattress pads that go with it, well, they vary in price depending on what you need. We've got twin, full, queen, king, California king, the handy travel size. Everything's right there at my website where you can make your purchase. When you get a notice back that the purchase didn't go through, don't worry about it. That's on my end. There's nothing wrong with what you did. I'll take care of it. We have issues with my credit card processor that I hope are resolved at some point. They're not resolved yet. So check it out and make your decision, and I'll take care of your order personally. Randy Weaver he's up there. He doesn't know that he missed a court date. He doesn't know a federal warrant for his arrest has been issued. He doesn't know that U.S. Marshals are lurking in the woods around his home, armed in camouflage. His dog didn't know that either. So his dog sensed something, and the dog went out there barking at whatever was out there. And the agent shot the dog. Randy Weaver's teenage son went out to see what was going on. They murdered Randy Weaver's teenage son. That began the standoff, which became national news. In case you weren't watching what was going on back then, this would have been 1993, I believe, or 92. It was one of those years. During the standoff, Randy Weaver's lovely wife was standing in the doorway of her home, holding her infant child, and was shot in the head by an FBI sniper named Lon Haruchi. Standing in the doorway of her home, holding her infant child in her arms when she was murdered by an FBI agent. The FBI called in 200 FBI agents. There was the state police there, National Guard there. We know now what it takes to face off one Vietnam vet, hundreds of federal agents. We know that because that's what it takes. That's what they did. Of course, the international press was there. And at one point, the federal government was prepared to, and they were already doing it, they were hooking up a rubber bladder that had about 200 to 500 gallons of flammable fuel in it, gasoline, and they were going to drop it on Randy Weaver's home and incinerate Randy and his family. When the news media saw what they were doing, was videotaping what they were doing, and waved at the federal agents to make sure that they were on camera and that they would not be deceptive and hide from the world, that they were about to incinerate these innocent men and this innocent family. What was left of it? 2 dead. Well, it took a Special Forces Colonel Bogreitz, to arrive in person and diffusing the situation. Bogreitz arrived on scene. He contacted Randy. Randy, of course, knew Colonel Greitz. And Colonel Greitz escorted Randy down the mountainside personally to defuse the situation. Otherwise, the feds would have murdered everybody there. That was their goal. That's what they wanted to do, was to murder everybody in Randy's family. Randy was awarded several millions of dollars for what took place there in a civil suit. I'm glad he was compensated, but his wife is dead, his son is dead, His life was basically ruined. All because of deception and fraud, unethical, illegal activity on the part of the federal government, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, U.S. Marshals, the FBI, the Department of Justice. All of them had skin in the game. Every one of them. Maybe some others I'm not aware of. There were two incidents that got the militia movement going in 1994, 1995. What happened at Ruby Ridge, Idaho was one of them. The other one was what took place at Waco, Texas. A similar tragedy, but a much greater magnitude just because of the body count. I know President Trump is aware of these things. I don't know if he intends to do anything about them. I know that the main players who were involved in these criminal acts are still alive. The president at the time, the attorney general at the time, these people are still alive and breathing, where the victims of their actions are dead and in the ground. So I don't know what plans, if any, the president has to do anything about these tragedies. I hope he has plans. I pray he does. A lot of us have not forgotten. We have not, and we will never forget the criminal actions of the federal government in those two places. The Branch Davidian Church, media wants to call it a compound. A compound has to have a fence or a wall to be a compound. There was no compound there. It was simply a church of men and women and children living their lives peaceably, complying with the laws of this country, and wanting to be left alone. That's all they were. That's all they were. There was no illegal activity taking place at the Branch Davidian Church. There were allegations of it, all of which have proven to be without justification, without evidence. So that's part of our legacy, part of our history. Anything that happened a quarter century ago is rapidly fading into history. As part of what we have to deal with, our collective memory, so to speak. We had a caller on hold here, Jerry in Texas. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning, John. I didn't realize that this phone and these little got an earbud with a mic, and I didn't realize they picked up so much of this noise out here, and I want to apologize to everybody. It gets noisy, tell me to walk away. Well, yeah, but it gets distracting too.
We want to hear those chickens.
Well, chickens, pigs, a lot of the noise you hear is actually guineas. But anyway, this deal at Ruby Ridge, the Waco incident, so many of them. This deal that happened last year before last in Idaho, or Nevada, Utah, wherever it was, where they actually carjacked, I guess, and shot, I don't remember what his name was now. But anyway, what was it, 60? No, it's been 80 years ago. The Hummingbird trials, if I pronounce it right, the war crimes. They executed and imprisoned the German guards and what have you. They were just following orders. Yet they weren't allowed to walk free. And that's what's getting in my problem.
Jerry, let me help you here. It was not 80 years ago. It was about 70 years ago, the Nuremberg trials.
Right. Okay.
And typically, they were top-level Nazis that were being prosecuted, not low-level guards. That came later because there were the people who want to keep this alive in people's memory were going after men who were 20 years old and, in fact, were nothing more than guards at some of these concentration camps. I don't want to get into that whole thing of what took place here because it is simply not something I deal with.
my point is, when are we going to end up? We're supposed to be a country of morals and personal responsibility. And when you have people that just blatantly go out and murder other people under the guise of a badge, and they walk, the agency of the government gets sued, and they get a huge settlement. But where is the personal responsibility and consequences of what happened? That's what irritates me. The people that actually commit this, do they not have the morals to know that they're doing wrong? Do they not question what they're doing?
The men who were at Ruby Ridge, the federal agents, they all took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. The men and women working for the federal government at Waco, Texas, they all took the same oath. Now, these are not people with low-level marginal IQs. They're bright enough to know right from wrong, bright enough to know when they're supporting the Constitution and when they're not. And they put their career and their pension ahead of the oath they took. That's what they did. They put their career,
that's my point.
Their pension ahead of doing the right thing. Right. Their career, their pension. As you say, they're supposed to be people of above IQ. Are they not questioning what they're doing? Nothing else on a moral standard. Here's this guy walking around out there minding his own business, and they come up there, shoot his dog, shoot his son, and shoot his wife that is posing no threat. And somebody says, I want to step back and say, whoa, wait a minute, we're going to have to discuss this, and this don't look right. Oh, no. Shoot first and ask questions later. But these people wasn't posing any kind of threat to obvious threat. But, my point is there's got to be some personal responsibility to these people that performed these acts. They're still walking around. Right. Well, it needs to happen. And I don't know what I know there's still civil suits pending regarding Waco, Texas, and I don't know what the status of those lawsuits are. But the president has the authority to take action also, and hopefully, his hands won't be tied anymore after this next election, which is 13 months away. He can do whatever he damn well pleases within reasonable limits, including looking at things like this. I hope he does. I don't know that he will.
Well, I hope and pray that somewhere down the line, these people serve some consequences to their irresponsible actions from the highest level to the lowest level. Because that's, I start taking stuff kind of personal, But anyway, I just wanted to throw that up. Where's the personal responsibility? Accountability, I guess, should be more the term here. That these people should be personally accounted for their what they've done.
Should be. Yeah. They should be.
But they're insulated.
It's been a quarter of a century, and it's time for justice to be served. It really is.
Exactly.
And we need to get a message to everybody in the federal government and the military that you need to support your oath of office above and beyond any other orders. That's the message that needs to be gotten across.
Well, it needs to be about a 9-month course in the Constitution and what it means and what it stands for before they're able to take an oath of office to uphold the Constitution. They don't even know what it is except a piece of paper with some writing on it. By the way, have you ever seen that video that's on YouTube now that Red Skelton had about the Pledge of Allegiance and how he,
of course,
that everybody should watch that. Gives a little greater appreciation of what we're saying. But anyway,
right.
John, thanks for taking my call, and I'll let somebody else get on and let you finish.
Okay, Terry, thank you for the
your
call.
hour. You have a good week.
Thank you, sir. The call number is 800-313-9443. I know when I was a young man, a quarter of a century ago sounded like a really, really long time ago, because when you're 25 years old, obviously it is, or 30, or even 35. But at the age I am now, it seems like yesterday. Here's our break. We'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page, and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Jared Moore here on Tuesday. It is Tuesday, the 3rd day of September. I've just checked on my website. We got the most recent update. Open Source Intelligence, a friend of mine, former counterintelligence agent. He's now retired. He's a very bright guy. He has a PhD, by the way. And he puts this together. It's when you read what's there, just look at the volume of what's there. What this man puts together every day of the week, sometimes he takes a day off, is phenomenal. If you want to stay up to date on what's going on in the world, in the United States, you need to look at Open Source Intelligence at my website, at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll really get something out of it. We got Leon Green joining us at the top of the hour, and we'll be talking about all the different things that Leon and I talk about. And that's always fun to visit with Leon. I recall I was watching the coverage at Waco. I was watching the coverage at Ruby Ridge. I was so disappointed and so sad to see what my government was doing to innocent men and women for no reason at all. None. What took place there at the Branch Davidian Church should not have happened. These were innocent men and women that were not engaged in any criminal activity whatsoever. None. Zippo. Nada. And they're dead. Murdered. Murdered with your tax dollars. With your tax dollars that paid for all that. There's been no accountability that I'm aware of. None. No accountability at all. That accountability reaches all the way to the White House, by the way. Bill Clinton was president. Attorney General Butch Reno, Janet Butch Reno, was the Attorney General. I think she's still alive. It goes right to the very top. They had fabricated evidence, false evidence, non-existent evidence, all made up in order to justify what they did. was kind of amazing. I heard the Attorney General of the United States talking about child abuse being one of the reasons the federal government was there. Well, there was no child abuse, but even if there was, they had no jurisdiction. It's not a federal crime unless it takes place on federal property. And there was no crime. There was no child abuse. There were allegations of it. The local constables had looked into it and determined there was none. There were no automatic weapons there. That was a fantasy. No, this whole thing was just fabricated out of thin air. There was no evidence. And these innocent men and women were murdered by our government, murdered in cold blood, incinerated. Did not need to happen. We have a top of the hour break. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here, our second hour on Tuesday, the third day of September. Our prepper tip of the day, I want to encourage all of you to reach out to friends and family who are in the hurricane-affected area. Reach out to them now while the telephones are working, because when they're down, the only thing that's going to work is ham radio, and chances are none of your friends and family have ham radio because, well, they don't. But reach out to them and see what help you can get them. Time is limited. What can be done now is going to be very limited, but reach out anyway and see what you can do. That would be the right thing to do. We have patient Wayne Green with my friend Leon Green. Leon is a gentleman who began a quest more than a decade ago to understand, comprehend, and eventually become quite knowledgeable in anything and everything to do with how and why to include doTERRA essential oils into your daily life. Good morning, Leon.
Good morning, John. How are you doing, sir?
Well, really good. A lot better than those folks in Florida. I believe the hurricane is making landfall today there, and the people are going to find out about why cell phones don't work all the time, won't they?
Yes, sir. I agree with you. And the ham radio aspect, you know, the likelihood of your listeners having friends that have ham are probably disproportionate considerably, 10 to 15 times more than the average listener.
Right. Well, that's just the nature of people. They Americans pay attention to what's important. NASCAR racing, professional sports, Dancing with the Stars. They know what's important. The silly stuff like ham radio, when you're sitting here cold and hungry and thirsty, that's not important. Not at all, is it?
Absolutely. And I think about, I'm reading more and more books, both fiction and nonfiction, about, human psyche when things go south, and they become despondent, severely despondent, and some become suicidal. So, what John and I are talking about are crucial, not only when hurricanes occur, but you may say, well, I don't live in Hurricane Alley or Tornado Alley for that matter. But, there are natural disasters. If you live in California, we know about the seismic events, Hawaii, the hurricane, they had one last year. And so what we're trying to convey to you is that if you're prepared, you can help your family, first of all, and then you can help your neighbors. But if you're like the rest of the sheeple that are walking around, all you're going to be is hungry, cold, and thirsty, and now you're a liability instead of an asset. And that's what we're focusing on, is helping you become an asset.
I'll make this statement. I would bet a $20 bill with my favorite president on it, President Jackson. I started to say General Jackson. It was Colonel Jackson. Well, maybe he was a general. I don't know. But regardless, that every zip code in the hurricane-affected area has one or more ham operators in it. Ham-licensed ham operators. And I think I would keep my $20 bill. I'm pretty sure of that. Now, we get these wake-up reminders every time there's a disaster of this kind, whether it's a hurricane, major flooding, fires, whatever it might be, that almost everybody has no communications on one hand. On the other, most zip codes are not that big of an area, especially that far east. We're looking at maybe 100 square miles, maybe 10 square miles. So these people have access to people with ham radio expertise have access to ham radio clubs. They did not avail themselves of that. So they're going to be sitting there by tonight or tomorrow with no communications. They may need access to medical care. They may need access to medications, to fresh water, to some kind of help, but they won't have access to it because they can't talk to anybody. And whose fault is it? Well, it's their own fault because they didn't pay heed and do the right thing to make sure they had communications. Instead, they were busy with the important things, like I said, watching professional sports and Dancing with the Stars and NASCAR racing, the important stuff. So the important stuff will not keep them alive, will it, Leon?
Absolutely. And, you know, I just saw, I walked out my front door this morning, and as I was thinking about it, I'm looking across the street, and there is a full-on ham HF antenna about 85 feet up the ground off, 90 feet from my house. So, when you talk about it, I've always wanted to just walk over and meet the gentleman and, ask him questions and get his wisdom, because most of the ham operators are older men. If we look at the demographics, and that generation is passing away, and they have tips and tricks that we should definitely avail ourselves with, and get the wisdom from them. And so that's something I'm going to make that a point in the next 2 weeks to try to get over to him before I leave on my trip, to actually, find out what he'd recommend and just tell him thank you very much for that eyesore that is helpful for people in disasters. That people I say, oh, that looks so bad. Well, right now, when you're in the dark and cold, that is the most beautiful thing, to be able to talk to your relatives, because you have that simple technology.
That's right. That's right. Well, these folks in Florida, my prepper tip of the day is reach out to people now. Here's something you can do. If you got friends and family in Florida, there's going to be a recovery period. They're going to be dealing with mold. They're going to be dealing with sleep deprivation. They're going to be dealing with needing extra energy. And there's oils that will help that. This is something people listening to us right now can do to help friends and family that are in the affected area. So let's start at the beginning. Mold. Now, mold is, we're looking at a semi-tropical area, lots of water, lots of heat, the ideal growing conditions for mold. Correct, Leon?
Absolutely. The humidity down is horrid. I mean, I was in Florida just last year, and we were getting dumped on, and you can smell it when you come into rooms that haven't been open in a while, and so yes, that fungus grows very easily there, and so there are oils that are very effective. And this is one thing I was reading in another book, and I said, let's focus on MOM. These are the multi tools of medicine. So Melaleuca is phenomenal for all mold-related issues, whether it's Candida albicans, which is very prevalent in America. 65% of Americans have it, and of those people, of those 65%, 85 are chronic. So there's over 200 known symptoms attached to that. So you can use these oils in the capacity of using a diffuser. And so you can have a DC version as well as an AC, an alternating current, at 120 volts. You plug in the wall version, and so for mold, Melaleuca works probably the best. And so, what you want to do is do the natural scrubbing, get rid of all that. But now, if it's going to be 5 feet of standing water in a house for 2 weeks, you may have to gut, but you can mitigate it drastically of any kind of impact, whether it is black mold, which is one of the most toxic mycotoxins, or all the rest of them that you see.
So, okay, let's say I got a brother that lives in West Palm Beach, and he's got 2 feet of water in there. He's got a cut-up drywall above that level, and he's going to be dealing with mold. What would he do with the Melaleuca to help mitigate the mold there?
Yes, sir. The way he would do it, once he's eliminated all of the drywall issues, then yes, he would. The best way to go is to get the Aroma Ace. That's the one that doesn't add more water. The typical diffusers that are inexpensive, they're water-based, whereas this one is completely oil-based. and so there's no more. In this case, you can turn it on, and it'll cover approximately 1,500 square feet of space. And so you turn it on with Melaleuca, and you can also use lemongrass and lemon, and you can use.
So Melaleuca, lemongrass, and lemon. Lemongrass and lemon are two different ones, right?
Yes, sir. And so you take off the nozzle, you screw it into the Aroma Ace, and I would turn it on. The oils will linger in the air approximately 20 minutes. So you can have it on for 5 minutes at maximum production, and then off for 20 minutes. So in essence, you are coating the entire house, the entire superstructure. And what's awesome about the oils, because they're the Aroma Ace diffuses them in the nanoparticle levels. What happens is the oils can actually permeate through drywall, through the paint, and get behind places where you can't get the entire house. And so, in that case, it works phenomenally. And in his case, I would just leave it on for 2 or 3 weeks, and he may only go through 4 or 5 bottles, as compared to completely gutting a house. And I think I told you about that story of the woman in Utah who had the mold issue, and she was going to be living in a hotel for 2 weeks with a newly bought house, and the previous owners lied to them and didn't tell them about the mold issue, and it was now a biohazard. And so before she got to that level, she found out about the doTERRA oils. She had 2 of these Aroma Aces going nonstop for 5 days, and after that, they came back in with the hazmat suits, and they tested, and they could find no mold issues. So it saves her tons of money. They were going to have to gut the walls, insurance, and she'd be living in a hotel for all that time. And so something as simple as Melaleuca oil and lemongrass is fantastic, extremely cheap. Lemon is 10 cents a bottle, and Melaleuca is $21, and lemongrass is like $12, and these are for the 15 milliliters.
Right.
So you can combine them all in a bottle.
Now let's talk about the people now. People are going to be living in automobiles, be living in tents, they'll be living in motel rooms. They're going to be exposed to various pathogens of certain kinds. Would On Guard be a good one to have in a diffuser for these folks, or maybe put on their body? That's what my wife had me do, was put the On Guard on my wrist and my neck. Would On Guard be a good thing in that environment?
Correct. And if they want to use it as a prophylactic, instead of getting sick in the first place, they can take it. I would say if they're going to be around a lot of people, then I would be taking it hourly. Just like when I fly international. If I'm on a plane, there's hundreds of people that have bugs that they bring in from all over the world. And so you can put it on your wrist. You can do it sublingually. And when I fly, I do it every 15 minutes. If they're going to be in a crowded FEMA camp or another like Superdome, like what happened in Katrina, then yes, I would be taking it every 15 minutes. But if they're just their family, they can maybe take every hour or two, and then that would allow them to still have the protection, and they wouldn't go through it as much. But each bottle has 250 drops, so it will go a long time.
Right.
And so obviously, even if you had 20 people, you'd be able to sustain them very easily. You can do it, and if they don't have electricity, like you said, if they're camping or in their car and they don't have an inverter, they can do it sublingually or on their wrist. If they do have access, they can just use the diffuser, and that'll kill airborne pathogens as well.
Okay, now, if you're in this area where the hurricane's been and you're doing any activity, there's a high likelihood of cuts and abrasions, I would say, even if you're being safe, wearing a helmet and gloves. What oil would be good to deal with cuts and abrasions? Because there's going to be lots of toxic. Floodwater has every toxic thing that you can imagine in it. And what would be good for cuts and abrasions?
So cuts and abrasions, back again with the that concept of the multi-tool, and I call it multi-tool of medicine because of the fact that you can use Melaleuca for all skin-related. It's the best oil for skin-related issues. So if you have cuts, abrasions, you can use that. You can also use lavender. It's also antibacterial, but it's also analgesic. And so it aids in tissue regrowth, of skin regrowth. So you can do Melaleuca.
Now, are you talking about which one's analgesic, the lavender or the Melaleuca?
No, the Melaleuca is both antifungal, and the lavender is an analgesic. So you can use those two together. So say you have an abrasion on your elbow. You can use a melaleuca for skin protection and lavender. You can just put a drop on, and do that maybe every 2 or 3 hours depending on the severity and how bad the abrasion is. And it will not contraindicate with pharmaceutical drugs, whereas a lot of times you can't mix different drugs together on, skin sites, so that's not going to be a problem at all. You irrigate it, and you can put the oils on, put a light non-adhering bandage over the top of it if you're worried about it. If not, you can just go dry. I mean, I cut myself last week. I just put melaleuca on and lavender and put my foot over the cut on my leg, on my ankle, and then I just let the oil stay on my skin because they get absorbed that way as compared to volatilizing into the ear. And so you get up to 95%, 98% absorption that way versus just putting a drop on, putting a bandage over, and it drops down to 20%. So you get maximum coverage.
Now, people that are dealing with this are going to be doing physical activity typically they're not used to doing, which is going to lead to sore muscles and sore joints. That brings in deep blue, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And so, yes, with extreme, in Americans' eyes, extreme work, the deep blue would be very apropos. So, and even if you don't have deep blue, consider lemongrass, poor man's deep blue. So, you can use lemongrass, the same one you talked about earlier, as a analgesic. It's a pretty hot oil, but it works very well for pain too, especially with pertaining to connective tissue. So people who have rotator cuff issues, carpal tunnel, lemongrass is phenomenal for that. So deep blue is mainly muscles and joints, and lemongrass is great for connective tissue, ligaments and sprains and strains. So you can use them together, but you can use them separately. And so many times people say, I don't know which one it is, if it's my muscles or my. I say you can combine both of them, and you'll get both aspects, and you'll get all the analgesic properties of both of them. So that's not a challenge at all. But lemongrass would be a great way to have it in the bottle. The rub, there's deep blue oil and there's deep blue rub. Both of them are very effective. I prefer the rub because it seems to go deeper and longer.
Yesterday, Leon, I was working on building a new office for myself here to do my show and do my work, and a bookshelf fell on my right foot. I had leather boots on. It fell about a foot, and it hurt. Of course it hurt. This is about, whatever it weighed, about 60 or 70 pounds, I guess. But so I put a little deep blue on it later in the day, and today it feels like normal. It's wonderful. So if you got friends or family in the hurricane-affected area, this is what you can do. Now, here's a summary of what we talked about, which we'll get to after the break. Stay tuned, everybody.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
All right, so back with Jim and Jared Morgan on Tuesday the 23rd. Excuse me. Tuesday the 3rd day of September. We're going on a cruise. Everything will be fixed up and looking bright and beautiful as always in Florida when we leave Port Canaveral Saturday the 9th day of February, returning a week later. It will be fun. If you want it to be romantic, it can be romantic. Valentine's Day is right in the middle of it. We'll have spent a lot of time together, get to know each other, and you can. I encourage you to join us. I really do. So, if you don't have internet connection and you want a nice full-color brochure mailed to you, give our cruise director Betsy Murphy a call. Her telephone number is 636-530-9502. I say again, 636-530-9502. We're sitting with Leon Green. We're talking about doTERRA essential oils and how they can help with people in the hurricane-affected area. I was giving a summary of what we talked about so far before the break. Here's the oils. I'll say them all twice slowly. Melaleuca, lemongrass, lemon, On Guard, lavender, and deep blue. Here's a second course here. Melaleuca, lemongrass, lemon, On Guard, lavender, and deep blue. At my website at thelibertyman.com is a drop-down menu under products. You just click on that, and you'll see the doTERRA oils listed there. And that's where you can get all these things, right there under products for doTERRA oils. And get these things ordered. You can have them delivered right to your friends or family right there in Florida. The Postal Service will be disrupted for a period of time, but they, knowing the Postal Service as I do, they'll get things up and running as quickly as they can to get those oils delivered. If you want a good reference book, you might want to send that separately. That would be Modern Essentials, the 9th edition, or 5th edition. Let's see, is the 10th edition out yet, Leon?
It's going to be coming out right after convention next week. So yes, we'll have access to that then.
So 10th edition will be
I would say
a week or two. Regardless, the 5th edition tells things they can't say anymore. The 9th edition is excellent. The 10th edition is coming out in a couple of weeks. You need these for yourself. You need them for whoever you're sending the oils to, so they can have the real deal, the real story there in front of them. This is a true crisis. Leon, I said the first hour, there's people right now in this country who are alive and breathing, alert and well human beings. They will be dead in a day or two because of this hurricane. That's my reality. This is a very serious matter. It will take lives. And if you got friends and family in this hurricane-affected area, this is something you can do to help, isn't it, Leon?
Absolutely. And matter of fact, if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can get that out. And doTERRA has another office in Atlanta, Georgia. And so you can order, and they can have it still delivered. And typically, even sending it Sure Post without the expedited shipping costs with FedEx or whatever, you can still get it out for $3.99, and you can still get it out this morning. So if you really want to help them drastically, the book will come separately, and that's as fast as Amazon is, but doTERRA can get it out this morning. If it goes out before 10 o'clock a.m. Mountain Time, it'll actually go today, and it'll be in the shipping process, and they should get it by tomorrow or Thursday at the latest.
Well, 10 o'clock Mountain Time is 90 minutes away, so people listening can have time to do that. If you're listening live right now, they have time to do that and get that order placed, get those oils en route to Florida. The Postal Service is still working. As at last time I checked, they were. I haven't checked again this morning. Maybe I should do that and see what's going on. But I'm pretty sure the Postal Service is still working down there, at least today. That will probably change. There'll be places that the mail delivery will be disrupted for a day or two or three. But typically, the Postal Service is one of the first services that's restored, isn't it, Leon?
Absolutely. They seem to be one of the more organized ones.
Right. Well, people wonder what when these calamities come up, the Red Cross, and don't give any money to the Red Cross, by the way. It should be Red Cross Incorporated. It's a money-making deal. If you want to give money to anybody, give it to the Salvation Army. I've seen firsthand the two in operation. The Salvation Army shows up and gets stuff down. The Red Cross, they take your money and drive around in white Suburbans and look at what's happening.
Yes, right after 9/11, they spent $25 million on their computer system. I used to give a lot to the Combined Federal Campaign, and I was a member of that. I used to organize it on board our ship, but after that, I was like, wow, we have people that are homeless right now, and you want to spend $25 million on a new computer system? So I pretty much stopped with the Red Cross completely.
No, the Red Cross is not what they pretend to be. When I was in Vietnam, they had Red Cross donuts that they were selling the GIs. How about that? If you didn't have money, you didn't get a donut. Here's our break. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the energy cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an energy cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Tuesday. It is Tuesday, the third day of September. My website is thelibertyman.com. If you're concerned about the economy, concerned about the stability of our economy, you probably want some gold coins and silver coins. That's where my friend Steve Hunt comes in. At the top of my homepage at thelibertyman.com, you'll see what looks like a Christmas gift, a red box with a gold ribbon on it. Just click on that and contact Steve. He'll mail you some interesting publications that will help educate you and just get started on that. Also, on our website, we have some interesting pieces of real estate listed for sale. 21.5 acres near Sargent, Missouri. It's in Texas County, 2 counties away from me. And then a place down in Arkansas with a massive cave in it. This cave's been explored more than a mile back. You could build a couple of houses inside this thing. It's so huge. Interesting location, interesting place. And, of course, the English translation of a speech given by the top Chinese military man He didn't know this speech would get loose, get into the hands of Americans. He certainly didn't want that or anticipate it. It gives the details about what they want. You really need to read that speech. Last but not least, at my website is Energy Cleaners. I need healthy Americans. We need healthy Americans. Want to make America great? Keep America great. We need healthy, energized, energy-filled Americans, and the Energy Cleaner will help do that. Only $285, shipping included, American zip codes. Keep in mind the following. If you're a doubting Thomas, I encourage that. I offer a 90-day money-back guarantee on the Energy Cleaner. Read up on it at my website at thelibertyman.com, where you can place your order using PayPal, MasterCard, Visa for the Energy Cleaner and a mattress pad to go with it. Toll-free our line 24 hours a day for the Energy Cleaner and the mattress pads. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Visiting with Leon Green, we're talking about how to help your friends and family that are going to be in this hurricane-affected area, which is going to take in, it looks like, Leon, the entire east coast of the United States, isn't it? Leon, you're on mute.
Yeah, I have not seen a track recently, but if we have another Super Sandy like we had before, you think people would learn, but it seems like they just go right back. It's like dogs going back to the vomit, and they say biblically, they just go back to slumber. I can't believe that.
Well, believe it. We've got no choice but to believe it. The hurricane's either going to cut across Florida and go into the Gulf of Mexico, or it's going to go up the East Coast. Of course, they can manipulate these storms to do whatever they want. They can stop these storms if they want to. That technology, satellite-based laser technology, has existed for years. And so we don't know what it's going to do. But if you got friends and family in the affected area, if you get the oils we talked about and get them ordered and get them shipped, it could certainly help people have a healthier recovery, a quicker recovery, a safer recovery. The chemicals used to mitigate mold are incredibly toxic, and they won't go behind the walls and behind the drywall, will they?
Absolutely, and those are all topical, and so they can spray it, but it has to actually touch it. And so that means you have to tear apart the walls to get access to the studs and everything behind it. Whereas with the oils, they go airborne and they go through the paint, enamel, oil paint, and through the drywall. So that's a huge difference between that, and it's natural. So you can actually you can get a certificate of occupancy much faster than waiting for all the other chemicals to first flash off, and also it's much less expensive. Think about it. If it costs you $20,000 to $30,000 to do all the tear out and more, now if you're doing a big house, we're talking $100,000. So there's a huge difference financially between the two. And even if you bought $300 in oils versus being out of your house for all those weeks for that work, because the people who are getting the repair done on the houses are going to be the ones who pay the most. And so, yeah, there's just like hail damage here in Colorado. You'll have these companies, fly-by-nights, come by and they take advantage of others. Whereas if you can protect yourself naturally and do it much less expensive without all the tear out and the OPSEC concerns of having people wander through your house, knowing what you have, there's a huge impact between doing it the smart way versus doing the common way.
There is. Now, Leon, I know you make yourself available for two things. One would be private consultation if people need a private consultation, don't want to share their personal health concerns on the radio in front of thousands of people. I understand that. The other would be if you're an outgoing person who likes to talk to people and would like to have a part-time business, you would talk to people about making doTERRA a part-time business as well, wouldn't you, sir?
Absolutely. We have people probably 2 or 3 times a month contact me specifically about doing the business, and they go at their own pace, and so it's very, very simple to do, and all we're doing is sharing the concept and the oils with others. And just like when you go to Costco and Sam's Club, people get samples, they try it, and they're like, wow, this stuff is fantastic, and then they buy it. And then after they really believe in it, then they say, yes, I want to really market it. But I saw how effective it was 10 years ago, and I was like, I've got to share this. And when I realized how important it was for preppers and people into natural living, and not even only purpose, just having the ability to control your health without the side effects of drugs and the expense and the shortened lifespan of the pharmaceuticals. There's a huge difference. So to me, it was a no-brainer. So anyone who would like to learn more about it, I ask you to reach out to me, and I'd love to answer many questions.
And how can they talk to you, Leon? How will they do that?
Yes, sir.
Telephone.
My phone number is 303-495-2188, Mountain Time.
Okay. 303-495-2188 to contact Leon if you want a private consultation for your personal health needs, or if you'd like to start a little business on the side, a little business that could become a big business. It's certainly a possibility, isn't it, Leon?
Absolutely. I mean, we've gone from, when I first started 10 years ago, there was 100,000 people with doTERRA. Now it's 8.4 million people who that get the oils in 138 different countries worldwide. So it's not just a mom and pop shop now. It's over 2.8 billion, and doTERRA is the world's largest essential oil company. And you can verify it because when you go to the stores now, I see Wally World, King Supers here in Colorado. They have 4 or 5 sets of brands of these knockoffs of these oils, and it says, it may say pure on it, but that means they only need to have 4% of the actual oil in there, and the rest can all be synthetic. And so you really have to watch where you get the oils, because many people think, I guess a great example is all night vision's the same. Yes, that's really expensive, but you can get cheap Russian or Chinese stuff that's not very reliable, terrible ocular acuity, or you can just pay for the good stuff and know it works. That's the same stuff the military uses. So would you rather have a PAVS 14 or a Russian Barska? And so there's a huge difference. And now we're talking about health issues. So if you want to put diesel distillates on your skin and your children's skin and in your dog's kennel, you can do that. But doTERRA tests every batch and every liter for 15 different tests. And they have 2 separate entities that test it. They don't even doTERRA it because they want to verify it is objective, and they test for microbes, chirality, to make sure there's nothing synthetic in there. There's no pesticides, insecticides, and so there's no fillers. That means they don't dilute it like many companies will do. So they give you 1 gram of the liquid, and they give you 100 grams or 98 grams of gasoline or carrier oil. And the cheap companies will use coconut oil or jojoba or safflower, but now you're just paying for oil. So if you want the best essential oil in the world, doTERRA by far meets that and exceeds that information. You don't have to believe me. You can go to source2u.com, the word source2u.com, and you can see the actual tests of each of the oils, where they are harvested and sourced. And once you have a bottle, you can take a picture of the QR code that's on the side of the bottle, and it will tell you the date that was sourced and where it was made. Like right now, I'm looking at a peppermint, and I see the QR code. And if I took a picture, I could send it to you, and you'd be able to see all the information on that. So it's awesome that doTERRA is truly transparent. No other company in the world in essential oils is that transparent. And I don't know about the other industries, but you try to get Sony to give you all their information, they're like, no, that's proprietary. doTERRA is like, no, we want to make sure we have the highest quality, and your health is most imperative for us. We don't have those silly things that other companies have. Say, not for internal use and do not put on the skin. So in essence, you're just smelling a pretty smelling gasoline because it's petroleum-based. Theirs are. And it's not fit for human consumption. And I've called the companies, and I've asked them, why do you have that on there if it's supposed to be 100% pure, and you say organic? Oh, because our lawyers say we don't know about the class action suit we'll get if these people have any complications because of their chemical-based essential oils. And I'm like, wow, it speaks volumes. Their liability is huge because they already know how bad it can be because essential oils are 50 to 70 times more concentrated than the underlying herb. So 1 drop of peppermint essential oil from doTERRA is equivalent to 28 cups of peppermint tea. So it's extremely, extremely concentrated. And so 7,000 1,000 times more concentrated than the underlying herbs, or 70 times. So there's a huge difference between doTERRA and any other company out there, and that's why I chose to represent it, and that's why I use it for every day. I use it with my dogs. I use it for sleep, and I use it also on plants. You can use it for gardening to ensure you don't have things like powdery mildew on cucumbers or, the squash family. And so you can spray those on the leaves, and it'll prevent the fungus that we were talking about earlier from affecting, your zucchini and squash. And so these are natural, so they're carbon-based, and your body is carbon-based, just like your dogs. But the chemicals that you get at the pharmaceutical companies are not carbon-based. They're petroleum-based. And because of that, that's why you have these side effects that, the last 2 seconds of every commercial you see, that this may cause, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, anal leakage, death. And it's like, holy cow. And they say all that in 2 seconds, whereas the first 30 minutes or 30 seconds of the commercials, oh, bliss, come with this company. Look at the butterfly. And then they'll tell you about all the suicidal ideation and things like that. So it's just hilarious to see how it's the dichotomy you were talking about. Let's watch Dancing with the Stars. I've never seen that. Or the America's Idol, America's Got Talent. And I look at all those things and like, wow, what a big waste of time. And now people who are in the dark are going to be impacted in Florida and the whole eastern seaboard because of the ignorance. And ignorance can kill because of...
Ignorance kills all the time, Leon. Ignorance kills all the time. That's as old as the hills. Well, the listeners to the John Moore radio show are very bright men and women. They have friends and family that aren't necessarily as bright as they are, or maybe they're just not knowledgeable. Maybe they're just simply ignorant. And you could have a PhD in some area and not know the things we're talking about because they simply never looked at it. But our listeners are looking at it. They're listening. They're paying attention. And we made this list of oils. I'll go over them again right now so people can write them down. The oils that will help people in the hurricane-affected areas. Here they are, twice again, slowly. Melaleuca, lemongrass, lemon, On Guard, lavender, deep blue. Here's the list again. Melaleuca, lemongrass, lemon, On Guard, lavender, deep blue. These are available at my website at thelibertyman.com. Under product, there's a drop-down menu, and you can place your order right there. If you get this order in the next hour, it will be shipped out today, right, Leon?
Absolutely.
And you can have it shipped directly to that person in the affected area. And the type of diffuser, if you want a good diffuser for them, would be an Aroma Ace diffuser. Aroma Ace. And of course, does that only run on 110 volts AC? Is there a version that runs on DC?
I heard they were talking about that several months ago, and I'll check into that today and see if that.
Well, they would need an inverter then. They would need an inverter to go from 12 volts to 110 AC, which those are being sold out at the hardware stores also.
You can get them. You can get them at the store for $10-15. So you don't need one that has 400 watts or 1,000 watts. So you can get an expensive one at Wally World for less than $30, and that would be more than enough power amperage to be able to put that out.
So you can go and get an inexpensive inverter. That's what it's called, an inverter, at Wally World, Walmart, and you can ship that yourself to your friends and family in the infected area, and then they can run the diffuser off an automobile battery. So we're past time. The storm is here. It's already the leading edges of it already making landfall in Florida, and people will be affected. There's going to be tens of millions of dollars in damages. There will be fatalities. There will be a recovery period, and we've been through this before. We're going to be through it again. It happens on a regular basis, doesn't it, Leon?
Yes, sir. And it is, that's one thing we could, just like the seasons. And so if we don't prepare, we're just planning. You've heard the military say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so we know it's going to happen. And so if we already know it's going to occur, if you have the food and water and gas stored up, then you can help others. If you don't, you just run around with your head cut off. You're frustrated. Now you're exposed when you have to go into a store to people who may have firearms, and now they may steal what you have or steal your car while you're in there trying to get stuff. So, it's needless. It's needless exposure. And for OPSEC, it's ludicrous to do things to try. The military doesn't go shopping as they go into battle. They already have all this stuff stored in. They drop it in with helicopters and planes, and so they have the drops. Civilians don't have that, so you have to plan in advance, or you're going to be exposed to all the vagaries and mistakes made by civilians. Because the police, once everything goes south, they're not going to be available. They're going to be at their parents. They're going to be at their own houses, just like the firemen. So you want them to be there. And even in Katrina, there were really good police. There were also police that were stealing cars from, the Cadillacs from the dealership. So, to think that it's going to be perfect and everybody's going to be kumbaya and helping each other is ludicrous. And that's what we're trying to do.
We got a break. We'll be back after the break. Stay tuned.
Republic Broadcasting Network depends on listener support of our advertisers and of our sponsors. We'd like to especially thank all of you who have taken advantage of our fundraiser with FrontSight Bonus. Those who are now FrontSight members, please train as soon as possible for your sake and for that of our nation. And please consider sharing your training and what you've learned when you arrive home. Republic Broadcasting Network has to stop promoting this fundraiser on air and on the website in just a few days. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, president of FrontSight, made a gracious exception to his no media rule for us at Republic Broadcasting Network. Thank you, Dr. Piazza. And once you've been to FrontSight, feel free to call your favorite host and share your experience on the air. We can continue this fundraiser without media help, but it'll be totally up to the listeners to spread the information. Please call Dan Sutterfield in Missouri at 573-465-2356, 573-465-2356. That's 573-465-2356.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Talk Right, the conservative app offered by TalkStream Live that caters exclusively to the conservative talk radio community. Here you'll see only talk shows and podcasts from the conservative right. All the big broadcast names and online digital shows in one place. Talk Right makes it easy to find all your favorite conservative talkers with all the upscale features you come to expect from TalkStream Live. Keep up with the fast-paced political world. Download Talk Right today from Google Play or the App Store.
All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Tuesday, the 3rd of September. Well, then we got the word out. Many thousands of people heard our message. A few of them will act on it. Most won't. Of course, not everybody has friends and family on the East Coast. But, of course, our advice applies to anybody dealing with similar situations, high-stress situations, flooding situations. And it's time to pay heed and get ready in advance, isn't it, Leon?
Absolutely. And it's like insurance. You can't buy insurance after the fact. I mean, you smash your car and you try to go to a company and say, "Hey, I'd like to get insured," and they're like, "Okay, great. Oh, I already have a pre-existing." You're like, "No." So if you need food, water, essential oils, get them now while they're easier and you can obtain them. Whereas if you try to buy gas and the electricity's out, the smart gas companies, gas stations will have a generator, and then they're going to run out too. And so then you're going to be stuck on the side of the road. So instead of being a casualty, you can be able to help people. And especially from a biblical aspect, you can make much more of a blessing to help people that you know and people along the way that you are prepared. Whereas the grasshopper in that scripture is just pretty much a casualty. And so we want you to be a blessing to others. And that's what our goal is, for you to be educated to help your family and others at the same time.
That's right. That's right. So everybody got your heads up. You know what to do. You know how to do it. And it's up to you. We've led all you folks to water. We can't make you drink. I don't want to make you do anything. I want to give you the opportunity to drink if you choose to. That's my goal. And the East Coast of the United States is heavily populated. About 85, 90 million people live on the East Coast between Maine and Florida. About one-third the population, close to it. And many tens of millions of people could be affected by this. If this storm goes up the East Coast, it will be tens of millions of people affected. If it goes into the Gulf of Mexico, it will be several millions of people affected. Regardless, it will affect many people in this country, won't it, Leon?
Yes, sir. And I actually sent you two links of the emergency uses.
I got the article here in front of me, and I'm going to talk to Tim about getting these posted on my website. And it has to do with why you should have essential oils during emergencies. Very well done article. And I think we gave a pretty good summary ourselves already, haven't we?
Absolutely. But the only thing that, we talked about lavender and the advantage of lavender and peppermint. Those are great for stress, but also for sleep. So if you have to stay up and maintain security in your family, then peppermint's great. But now if you're exhausted, you want to sleep, lavender is great for that too. So the oils have multiple uses. Just one oil does. So that's the advantage. That's why I'm calling them MOM, because multi-tool of medicine, because there's so many benefits.
I like that. Well, us preppers like our multi-tools, don't we? I never really thought about mine. Even if I'm wearing a coat, even wearing a suit and going to a formal event, I'll still have my multi-tool on my hip. Leon, thank you, sir. We'll have you back next Tuesday.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Appreciate it. That's it for the day. Get your medical supplies, your energy, clean your essential oils now while you can, your firearms, ammunition. Never, ever give up your guns. Please do a fun, safe, productive day. God bless America and God bless people in this hurricane area.